Hello, I'm Beatrice Quayle, Deputy Superintendent of the Chicago Police Bureau of Patrol. The City of Chicago encourages people to bicycle for transportation to reduce traffic congestion and pollution. More and more people are cycling on city streets, and motorists and bicyclists must share the road. Every day, lives are endangered because of careless or reckless driving and bicycling. This video will help you identify and enforce Chicago's traffic laws, preventing injuries and saving lives. With increased cycling in Chicago, this type of enforcement is more important than ever. In Chicago, we share the road.
I'm Sergeant Carl Shearer of the Chicago Police Department. I've ridden a bike in the line of duty, and those of us who ride here know it can be tough. Police officers and serious cyclists told us just how challenging it is to ride in the city.
You have a lot of people that's driving wild. It's just crazy nowadays.
Motorists feel like they have an exclusive right to the road because that's what they're used to.
When I'm riding, I usually take Archer Avenue, and I'm constantly getting buzzed, honked at.
A lot of people don't consider a bike something they need to stop for.
I'm a legal road user, I should be out there.
I don't understand why 30 seconds isn't worth my life.
You definitely have to be aware at all times out here, and can't really let your guard down at all.
When people are trying to go to and from work, they're just in a hurry, so they're not paying as close attention.
They're eating, putting their makeup on, doing their hair. Especially in the loop, everybody's going everywhere, and bikers are just left in the dust. It's kind of scary.
People are speeding and going faster than they probably should be, not slowing down and taking the time to think about what's going on out there.
A lot of people never get on a bike, so they don't understand what risk we're at every day.
Motorists are not aware of bicyclists as they're driving, and if they see a bicyclist, they give very little room. I have a lot of issues with motorists when I'm on a bike.
Some people think bikes don't belong on the road.
I don't honestly think they should be on the streets.
But under state and local laws, bikes do belong on the road. In fact, unless they're on a designated bike trail, cyclists age 12 and older are not allowed to ride on the sidewalks. This means that they have to ride on the street with the cars. Chicago has laws on how bicyclists ride in traffic and how motorists drive around them. Drivers don't always see things from a bicyclist's perspective. Cyclists don't always have a motorist's view of things, and people don't always know the laws.
Some woman clipped my bike and I went flying. And she stopped for a second and said, "Oh my God, what did I do?" And then she took off.
A woman pulled across the lane next to mine, and I went flying right into her. I could barely get off the ground, but she just drove off. And I'm pretty sure that she did not feel that she had done anything wrong.
And even if motorists know the laws, there's so much going on in city traffic that they don't always see bicyclists. Through proper enforcement, officers can help make drivers aware.
Sir, we take very seriously the safety of all persons on the roads, including cyclists.
Under MCC 940-160, motorists are required to exercise due care for bicyclists just as they would for pedestrians. That means watching out for them, driving defensively, and treating bicyclists the same way they would treat the driver of a motor vehicle. So let's talk about the most dangerous situations between cars and bikes. Intersections are at the top of the list. In Chicago, it's illegal to turn right in front of a bicyclist, just like it's illegal to turn in front of a mass transit bus.
An SUV came up behind me and turned right in front of me, and it threw me over the handlebars, and it actually tore out part of my mustache. The vehicle involved did not stop. I have no idea whether they even knew it happened.
Drivers have a responsibility to look for bike riders and yield to them before making the turn. If they fail to yield, cite them with violation MCC 916-020 F Frank, improper right turn in front of a bicycle. The same goes for making a left turn in front of a bicyclist. Violation MCC 916-020 E Edward, yield the right of way to a bicycle on left turn. Misjudging the speed of a bike could cause a fatal crash. On the other hand, caution costs just a few seconds. Drivers must also use caution when passing bicyclists. In Chicago, motorists must leave at least 3 feet of space between their vehicle and a bike.
It's almost like an extension of personal space.
I've had cars literally on a ride home where I've had the same car about knock me off 2 or 3 different times.
It's very nerve-rattling when cars passing you 6 inches. and you're on a bike.
I mean, how many people are aware of the fact that there's a 3-foot rule now with biking? People don't know that.
So drivers who pass bicyclists at an unsafe distance should be cited under MCC 936-010 C Charlie, overtaking bicyclists at an unsafe distance. Before opening the door of a car, drivers have an obligation to check for traffic coming from behind, especially bikes. Failure to do this can cause a dangerous crash, what bicyclists call dooring, and we call violation MCC 980-035, open door in traffic. This can happen on either side of a vehicle. Even if the door doesn't hit the bicyclist, it could force them to swerve into traffic, and if a crash results, the person who opened the door is legally responsible. Bicyclists are also at risk when people drive in the bike lanes. Drivers who use bike lanes to get through traffic should be cited for violating ordinance MCC 940-060, driver parked vehicle on bike lane, path, or marked shared lane. This ordinance also prohibits parking or standing in a bike lane or marked shared lane. That's because it endangers bicyclists by forcing them to merge with faster moving traffic. Vehicles parked in bike lanes and marked shared lanes are subject to a fine and immediate towing. Illegally parked cars aren't the only dangers that cyclists have to contend with. Oftentimes, they'll have to ride further out in a travel lane to avoid road hazards, getting doored, or when a lane is too narrow for them to travel safely next to cars and trucks. State law, IVC 11-1505A Adam, position of bicycles and motorized pedal cycles on roadways, allows people to bike further out into the travel lane in order to stay safe. Subsection B of the same statute permits bike riders to travel in the left lane on a one-way street. Cyclists are also permitted to turn left from the extreme left lane under IVC 11-1510A Adam, left turns. So far, we've covered motorists' responsibilities towards bicyclists and bicyclists' rights on the road. But what about bicyclists' responsibilities? Just like motorists, bicyclists also have to yield to pedestrians. This means yielding at crosswalks and staying off the sidewalk. Only children under the age of 12 are allowed to bicycle on the sidewalk. At night, the law requires bicyclists to have a headlamp and a red rear reflector or light, and you can see why. Cyclists need headlamps and reflectors to be seen. As children, many Americans were taught that riding against traffic is safer because it allows you to see oncoming vehicles. That's not true, and it can cause a crash since drivers aren't expecting cyclists riding towards them. Riding predictably and following the rules of the road is the safest way to ride.
There has to be awareness on everyone's part. If you're going to use the road, you have to be aware of all the rules of the road and follow them, whether you're driving a vehicle or riding a bike.
And when people do get hurt, your good work can make a real difference to someone.
When the police were right there and saw everything happen and were ready to take action on that left hook incident, I was so grateful.
If you're called to the scene of a crash involving a bike, there are several things to keep in mind. First, when filling out a crash report, always treat a bicycle as a vehicle. Put all of the bicyclist information under Unit 1 or Unit 2 as applicable, and check the box for pedal on the crash report form. Always include a written description and a diagram of the incident. Include a written description of the damages to the bicycle in the case report, and list the crash type, pedal cyclist. Then mark the specific fields for location and action. Always include the injury type. Write 0 if there was no injury. Remember that the driver's action, driver's vision, and vehicle defects can be used to describe the bicyclist's condition as Unit 1 or 2. Pay special attention to the safety equipment and bicyclist visibility. Mark them on the form. When taking a bicyclist statement, be aware that he or she may be suffering from shock and short-term memory loss.
You've just been hit and you're totally in shock and full of adrenaline, and then you have to make some pretty important decisions very, very fast when you're bleeding.
Even if the bicyclist seems fine, you may need to follow up the next day or talk with them after a trip to the emergency room. If the crash causes a serious injury, consider having photographs taken of the damages to the bicycle. If the bicycle is not deemed evidence, but the bicyclist is transported to a hospital and has to leave the bike behind, do everything possible to ensure that their property is taken care of. Perhaps a friend or family member could take the bicycle. If it is necessary to take the bicycle to the station, refer to General Order 81-01, Inventory System for Property Taken into Custody, and follow the procedures outlined in the order. Bear in mind that for some people a bicycle is their only form of transportation, and losing their bike can prevent them from getting to work or school. In Chicago, bicyclists and motorists must share the road. Bicyclists must ride in the same direction as cars, and motorists must give bikes a wide berth, at least 3 feet when passing. Drivers must yield to oncoming bikes and check for bicyclists before opening their doors. It is illegal to drive in a bike lane, and standing or parking there or in marked shared lanes is also a ticketable offense. At night, bicyclists must have a headlamp and rear reflector or light, and only children under the age of 12 are permitted to ride on the sidewalk. When filling out crash reports, put all of the bicyclist information under Unit 1 or Unit 2 as applicable. Always include a narrative and a diagram of the crash. It's no accident when drivers and bicyclists get to where they're going safely. The public counts on us to keep the roads safe and to protect those who are at greatest risk.
As a police department, we should make it, easier for cyclists to come out here.
Just respect each other. Extend common courtesy to each other. That's all.
And when you see a bicyclist out there on the street, remember, it could be someone you know.